Namaskar, hello and welcome viewers. You're watching Committee Report with your host Kriti Mishra. Today we'll take a closer look at the report of the Parliamentary Standing Committee on attracting investment in post-COVID economy. The committee appreciates the efforts made by the government in taking proactive steps to attract investment and promote domestic manufacturing. The committee is hopeful that these measures will help in realizing the goal of Atmanirbhar Bharat and making India a global manufacturing hub. It recommends the government to ensure that the newly introduced schemes or measures are implemented in a timely manner. And to make sense of challenges and opportunities for India in the post-pandemic period, I'm joined by an illustrious panel of guests. Joining us in the studio, Mr. Sujit Kumar, MP Rajya Sabha, he represents the BJD. Joining us through virtual platform, Mr. Deepak Bagla, Managing Director and CEO, Invest India. And also in the studio we have with us Mr. Pradeep Multani, Immediate Past President, PhD Chamber of Commerce and Industry. I welcome all of you on Sunset TV and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And let me begin the program with Member Parliament on the panel today. Sir, India, the fifth largest economy in the world, in the overall gloom of recession around, perhaps the only bright spot. Going ahead, what are the challenges and what are the opportunities for India according to you?
Ma'am, let me speak about the challenges since you started with challenges. As you rightly have observed, we are the island of hope amongst the gloom that we see across the world. Even IMF has predicted that will grow close to 7%, which is a fairly decent number considered that most of the advanced economies will be growing close to 2 to 3%. Challenges for us, the biggest challenge that we see in India today is social harmony, which I think should be maintained. No investor would want to come to a nation which is riddled with social tensions and all kinds of disharmony. So the need for the nation is to present a harmonious face to the world. We are the youngest nation in the world. Two-thirds of our population is under 35. Half of our population is under 25. We are the largest democracy in the world, so we can call this the democracy dividend. We can call the demographic dividend the youthful population. So we are blessed with immense possibilities. We are blessed with immense opportunities. But the challenges, yes, there are structural challenges. But fortunately, over the last 7-8 years, many structural changes have been made in terms of infrastructure, in terms of getting the benefits to the desired beneficiaries, in terms of making changes in the banking system, in the legal system, in the economic system. So we have made some structural changes. So that we do, of course, we do need to make many more structural changes. Our infrastructure is still pathetic. It's still lousy. Though lot of investment is going on, lot of investment has been committed, and we are definitely going forward, whether it's power or airport or highways. But I think still we do need to go a bit of a distance. But I think those can be tackled. So, but the biggest challenge, in my view, is the social, the disharmony, the possibilities of creating riots, possibilities of we have seen that during the CA protest, we have seen that during the farm law protest, we see that on a daily basis in different parts of the country with the communal riots, with the social unrest. So if we are able to manage that, then yes, all these opportunities will unfold, and India will definitely not only become a $5 trillion economy, but I can easily see India becoming a $10 trillion economy in the next 6-7 years. But if we are unable to manage this challenge, then I think we will have serious concerns.
All right, Mr. Kumar, you talked about the challenges. Let's also talk about the opportunities. Mr. Bagla, coming to you now. What makes India a preferred investment destination? What are the critical factors?
Kriti, thank you. Just let me step back and share some numbers with you. And I think let's put things in perspective and in facts. This year, that is 21-22, March 22, we closed the financial year with an FDI of $83.5 billion.
Yes.
It's the highest ever FDI we've got in our history. And remember, at a time when there was a complete lockdown. Please don't forget that. And let me put it in another perspective. 2021, yes, the year before this.
Yes.
Global FDI went down by 35%. Indian FDI was one of the few which went up by over 8%. It is a very big acknowledgement of the world to what India is about. Now, let me tell you more interesting things about it. This FDI this year came from 101 countries. It's a global record.
Yes.
101 countries today trust India for its leadership, trust India for the opportunity it offers, trust India for its future, and trust India for its ability to partner with the world. It is a very strong statement. It's not just about the money which comes. That's important. But more important is the global recognition of India's leadership today. The second very interesting point to that, Kriti, it came in 57 sectors.
Right.
You know, what you are witnessing in India, and especially in the past 7 years, has been that there's a complete disruption based on innovation in virtually every aspect of our life. Today, you have 57 sectors which the world is looking at to invest in.
Yes.
Look at the bouquet of this opportunity which is expanding. And this expanding opportunity is just the beginning, because this is where you will now start seeing a multifold growth in the investments coming in. And now I take you to my third point, which to me is one of the most gratifying points. And frankly, if you look at it, it's one of the biggest strong points to show how a leadership can actually create a sense of equity. This 83.5 billion came across 31 states and union territories of India.
Right.
This is huge, because what this is going to show is that how the growth engine of India now is moving bottom up. Each and every state is having the ability to participate in that growth and to partake from the benefits of that growth. And it is a global recognition of the kind of work and the effort which has gone in to make this happen. This change is immense. This is a change where you're seeing together a sense of singularity of purpose which is coming in, and what you are seeing is a beginning of an exponential growth pattern. To my mind, we are at an inflection point. If I may just take one more minute with your permission.
Go ahead, sir. The floor is yours.
Since 2014 until now, we've got over $500 billion of FDI. Over $500 billion, 532 billion.
Yeah.
It's come from 165 countries, and it's come across 65 sectors. Give me one more country which can parallel this growth pattern for you. And let me give you the other more interesting point. In the past 84 months, as a size of a GDP, we've moved ahead of Russia, Italy, Brazil, France,
That's
UK.
right.
In 84 months, look at the pace of growth of this juggernaut. It is a fact that by the end of this decade, you will be number 3. The difference is how close will you be to number 2 or not. That is the only difference which is going to make. And what I have for you actually is a very interesting set of statistics which the team came up yesterday. If I look at the growth figures, now what is it? My national GDP is the aggregation of the state GDPs, right?
That's right.
If I look at the statistic from 2015 to 20, and I have taken 20 as a cutoff because we came into the pandemic just after that. 27 states of India grew at 10% plus during those average. 7 of them grew between 8 and 10%, and 2 of them were just between 7 and 8. And if I just look at the highest growth they have achieved during that year, during that period of 15 to 20, 35 of them grew at 10% plus, of which 7 grew at more than 15%, of which 3 grew more than 20%. So if I continue growing even at this base rate, the base rate which I'm talking about, by 2030, you will be at least 10 trillion. And if I pick up the maximum, by 2047, you have the ability to be 53 billion.
Right.
You see the opportunity position which is open for you. Tell me one another large economy in the world which is currently growing at 6.5% plus or 7% plus anywhere else in the world, even when it's in a depression.
All right, Mr. Bagla, you made very important points.
Has
Yes,
just
sir.
begun. And this inflection point is now ready to take off.
All
Thank you.
right.
I've taken more than my time.
No,
but I
no,
take it back to
fantastic,
you.
fantastic. And thank you so much for setting the tone and tenor of this discussion. Let me take that to Mr. Multani. Mr. Multani, some very interesting and very enthusiastic and ambitious statistics we had from Mr. Bagla there. Does the industry share the same enthusiasm?
Definitely, I have the greatest respect for Mr. Deepak Bagla. The facts which he has presented here today are absolutely true facts. The fact remains that India is the bright spot on Earth, on the planet Earth. And thanks to the dynamic leadership of Mr. Modi, today we enjoy tremendous goodwill all over the world. You know, the way we handled COVID-19 for the size of our population, it was phenomenal. We vaccinated our population in a very good manner, very fast. We also shared our vaccinations with different developing countries, which generated tremendous goodwill. And now, even in this Russia-Ukraine war, the stand taken by India, an independent stand, and the correct stand, and this again is generating a lot of goodwill. Now, coming to attracting investment to India, while fully appreciating what Mr. Deepak Bagla just mentioned, one does feel that we have got a very young population and we need to take this further forward because we have to provide employment to huge masses. So we need to do some more things on the ground. And I will definitely say, you see, one of the greatest things which our finance minister did was, saying that we will give you the income tax which will be levied on corporates will be 15% if those corporates are set up on or before 31st March 2024. Now, this is one of the most lowest and the most competitive tax rates in the world, and people understand this sort of flat system. They don't understand take a rebate from here, left, right, or center, or any other claims. So I think this is really wonderful. However, my suggestions, what we strongly need to further move forward on, so that we can provide the sort of employment which is needed for our masses. My main suggestion would be, recently a PLI scheme has been introduced for the chip sector. Now, this is the first time where the subsidy of 50% is being given. And this is rightly so because we have to see what is the competition offering to their industry. So the government studied all the facts and figures and they realized that if we have to become a major chip manufacturer in India, stop imports and also be a major exporter, so we had to give at least 50% subsidy to make it a level playing field. Now, government has given PLI schemes in 14 other sectors. Now, we need to extend this sort of performance-linked incentive scheme to other sectors also.
Right.
And industry doesn't want anything more. All it wants is that whatever our neighbor is providing to their industry, that equivalent subsidy may kindly be provided to performance-linked incentive may be provided to Indian industry so that we can take on the competition. That is one. Number two is that our petrol and diesel prices are really high. We appreciate that it is not in our hands, but taxes, GST and local taxes, they are a major constituent. Industry would like that these should be included. Petroleum and diesel prices should be included under GST so that one can get input tax credit. And when we are exporting, then that input credit, then we can be competitive and we can export more and more. Apart from that, the cost of capital in India is still very high.
That's true.
You see, if you look at countries like China or even Japan or the Western countries, the cost of capital is hardly 2-3%. Whereas even in India today, the cost of capital is as much as 8 to 10%. So we need to be very, very competitive if we have to boost our exports.
Right, sir. So those were the expectations of the industry as far as remaining competitive that is concerned. And of course, the industry is clamoring for more. And I hope Mr. Bagla has taken note of that. But before I go to Mr. Bagla, again, Mr. Kumar, let's talk about legislations and ease of doing business in India. We saw IBC, we saw arbitration and conciliation, mediation bill is on the way. You are also a renowned lawyer. Enforcing of a contract is a very important component as far as ease of doing business in a country is concerned. Right. Going ahead, what are the steps do you think that the government or India can take to ensure even that is further simplified?
Sure. Ma'am, before answering this question, please allow me to, just add two points to what Mr. Bagla has said. I share his optimism. Yes. In fact, I've been telling everyone that the next 25 years belong to India. And by 2047, the Amrit Kal that we have, the 25 years of Amrit Kal, when we will celebrate our 100 years of independence, not only do we have a 50 trillion-dollar economy, I think we'll also become a Vishwaguru. But to become a Vishwaguru, we need to invest in our education system.
Right.
We need to invest in innovation. You know, we spend only 0.7% of our GDP on research and development, R&D. Taiwan spends 3.8, China spends 3.2, Israel 4.2, USA 3.2. So if we are to compete, and we all know that unless we spend on research and development, on research and innovation activities, we cannot become a Vishwaguru.
Right.
Kothari Commission way back in 1960s had recommended spending 6% of GDP on education. We are nowhere half of that today. Today we are spending less than 3% on education, and that includes primary, secondary, and tertiary education. So we have to really start focusing on education and innovation on research. I do not know where the finance minister gets her money from, whether she takes it from infrastructure or from defense or from health, but education has to be a priority.
Right.
Now coming back to your query about ease of doing business. In 2014, we were ranked about 140, 142 odd in the ease of doing business ranking brought out by the World Bank. The latest ranking of 2019 that we have, India is a respectable 63.
Yes.
Yes. What has brought in these changes? Of course, the structural changes that I was talking about, the DBT. I come from rural India,
Yes.
and I realize I can tell you from first-hand experience the change that has brought in the lives of people in rural India. Now, what is bogging us down in the ease of doing business ranking? There are 12 parameters.
Yes.
And in one parameter, we are ranked very low, and that is the ease of enforcing contract.
Yes. Yes.
Today, almost everyone knows that it's almost impossible to enforce a contract in India. Our judiciary system is pretty clogged. It's
Right.
choked.
Overburdened.
There are 3 crore cases pending in the trial courts.
Yes.
There are 40 lakh cases pending in our high courts. There are 60,000 cases pending in our Supreme Court. So with this massive number of pending backlog cases, simply we are unable to handle giving speedy justice. You have a funny situation where 2 Indian entities are enforcing their contract outside India, or they have an arbitration clause that they will arbitrate outside India in Singapore International Arbitration Center, SIAC,
Yes.
or in Dubai or in London, rather than arbitrating in India, because we do not have an arbitration hub or an arbitration culture in this country. Again, I do not want to be technical, but we have funny, clauses in our legislation where even after the arbitral award, a party can go to a district court.
Exactly.
And
Yes.
then it can take decades to enforce that arbitral award. So unless we reform our judicial system, I have been, I have spoken in the floor of the House, I have spoken at multiple platforms that the biggest need for the government today, after having implemented many structural changes, is to bring in the judicial reform. We
Right.
need to massively leverage technology. I don't understand why we have technology, we have the financial stack, today we are going for the health stack. Our UPI is considered as the best in the world.
Yes.
We are known as a nation of technology, and we have leveraged technology in almost every field except the legal field, which is my field. So I really hope that, if you have to further, simplify ease of doing business, if we have to become a world leader in attracting investment, we have to grow at 7-8%, then we need to reform our education, our judicial system.
Very important points you made there, sir. Let me take that to Mr. Bagla. Mr. Bagla, how do you respond to the concerns raised by Mr. Kumar here? How do you assuage and allay his concerns as far as ease of doing business in India is concerned going ahead?
Priti, we've come a long way. We still have a long way to go. Let me just share with you what happened. We were in Davos this summer, and there was a roundtable of global investors, and one of them mentioned that he's going to be doubling his investment in India during the next 24 months, and it's a big investment. And somebody across the table asked him why. And he said it very well. He said, every tomorrow in India is better than today. And I think that sums up to a large extent what investor looks for. Now, let me give you 2 or 3 examples of that.
Yeah.
And when I told you that how fast India is changing towards that direction, we will have issues. The point is, today you have a polity and a leadership which is wanting, willing, and focused on challenging and changing those issues and sorting them out. And let me give you an example of how fast we are moving. You'll agree with me that data is the new oil.
That's
That's
right.
where the engine of growth is. 2015, when the Honorable Prime Minister, July 2015, launched Digital India, India's global ranking on per capita data consumption was about 123. Take it, guess what it was last year. It was number 1 in the world. India consumed more per capita data than China and the US put together. In fact, let me take you to the next point, and that will always impact the cost of capital going forward. But let me also mention to you 41% of the world's real-time transactions last year in the lockdown, 41% of the global real-time transactions happened in India last year. The next best was China with 18 billion. We had 48 billion transactions. Are you seeing the pace at which this country, this juggernaut, is moving? And the real example of that, if you translate that into real action and business, let me give you the last one.
Yes, sir.
You remember January 16, 2016 is when the Honorable Prime Minister launched Startup India.
That's right.
We are just 72 months from that. At that time, we had 454 startups in India. Today, we have 75,000 startups. We are number 3 in the world in number of unicorns, number 2 in the world in number of startups, number 1 in the world with new startups adding every day. And let me tell you more. Even in the midst of the lockdown in 2020, you added a unicorn every 26 days.
Yeah.
In 21, the year after, again the lockdown, you added a unicorn every 9 days. Why is that happening? One, India provides the largest attractive opportunity in the world in terms of a market. Completely agree. But what has also happened is the ability of a leadership to create potent outcome-based policy where they've created tools where you can access that market.
That's right.
And to my mind, digitization is probably one of the biggest things which has happened in India, which has empowered and democratized the entire 1.4 billion human resource, given them the access to education, access to opportunity, access to participate in India's growth, and access to partake from the growth of India. This is what is propelling this country forward. This is what is bringing that change.
Absolutely.
So it is good that
Yes,
we are an aspirational society today, which is one of our biggest strengths. And the honorable member mentioned that how we are one of the youngest nations.
Right.
Our average age is 29. We'll be the youngest in the world all the way up to 2047. And don't forget 9,000 days from today on 15th August 2047, when you celebrate your 100th birthday, 21% of the world's global workforce will be from India.
That's right.
And 20% of the world's middle class will be in India. Think about it.
So a very aspirational country and aspirational society. But Mr. Multani, Mr. Bagla has put forth all the initiatives that the government has taken. But equally, the onus lies on the shoulders of the industry as well. Despite the rate cuts, despite all the incentives, somehow corporate India hasn't stepped up and hasn't really revived the capex spend as much as we would have wanted it to.
You see, why I fully appreciate the sentiments expressed by Mr. Deepak Bagla and the facts he gave. The fact remains that at the center, things are, I will use the word, outstanding. But what happens when we come down to the state level? Unfortunately, the ease of doing business which we are talking about is not percolating to the state level. The sort of single window service we are talking about, that is still not being implemented at the state level, and it is incredibly difficult to go ahead with your projects. Like I mentioned, 15% income tax for even domestic industry if we set up companies before 31st March 24. Now what will happen? If we even in today's date, if we go to set up a industry in India, will we be able to go through those 35 different departments and get all the needful licenses, be able to set up our businesses?
Right.
Now what is needed is, which I would strongly urge gentlemen like Mr. Dynamic officer like Mr. Deepak Bagla, that let there be hand-holding of the industry. That yes, there is a national single window service which is outstanding, but there are those 25, 30 windows in that single
Mr.
window.
Multani, I just have 60 seconds left on the show. You've raised a very important concern. Mr. Bagla, you have the policies at the center level, but what happens when it percolates down to the states and the districts? Sir, 60 seconds.
Priti, this one deserves much more than 60 seconds because what you've touched is the core of India. But let me give you a quick example on ease of doing business.
Yes, sir.
Give you an example of Uttarakhand. From 2015 to 2019, it's jumped 12 positions in ease of doing business. Today, good economics is the center of good politics in every
That's
state
right.
and center of India.
Right.
By the way, Multani ji, we've already launched the National Single Window. You're aware of it?
Yes, please.
And in the soft launch in the past 6 months, we've already done 25,000 approvals already. And this is actually a single window without multiple windows opening at the end of it. And by the way, I must also tell you that we have a few states in India which are now global examples of best-in-class single windows with deemed approval if you don't hear back from the government within a period of 2 or 3 weeks. So
Right.
they are now looked at as a global example, best in class. And what I'm now seeing very quickly happen is that when one state comes up with a best in class example, there are multiple others which follow through
Yes.
very quick.
Yes.
Preeti, I've taken my 60 seconds and I just want to be in
Thank
that
you so
timeline.
much, Mr.
Thank
Bagla.
you.
We've been talking about competitive federalism, but of course, this discussion goes on and on. But I'm completely out of time. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Kumar, Mr. Multani, and Mr. Bagla.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you.
viewers, that's all I could pack for you in this edition. Thanks for watching and stay tuned to Sunset TV. Namaskar.